Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we conclude the sixth turn of the Shadowtech Goddess subtitled Kat, Chapter 8, Part 2, Gelt, and the final chapter, Lunch by the Sea. And this is it. There is no more. Previous chapter, Lord Belmont and Kat are transported to wet, crappy Gelt in the backwater of the League. It's not even a League world. It's just a very agrarian, backwards place. To the site, about 30 years prior, of the wreck of the Triumph, the prototype of a new heavy warship for the fleet. Very powerful. It was taken over and captured by Princess Marlith of Xandar, and after a horrific battle, it crashed on Gelt. And Sigillus of Metatron, who had stowed away, killed everybody on board in a horrible fashion, and then covered the wreck with the earthen Seven Wives Hills to hide what she had done. That is the entrance to Bellathauser's horror realm, a suitably grim and depressing place. Kat and Lord Belmont enter the wreck of the Triumph. They discover it's a charnel house of dead bodies, still oddly preserved after all these years. And they come across the Grundids, the immortals of Camera, who are not whole. They are body parts, bits and pieces, arms, legs, heads, and even smaller parts that cannot die. They encounter Fiddler Crow, if you remember him from part 2 of this book. He gives them some information. He gives them some accessories to assist them, goggles so they can see in the dark, and different sets of strikers for Lord Belmont's nth pistols that will simulate death. And he also time socks the Grundids and Bellathauser so that they appear immobile. But as soon as he lays hands on the anatometer, the time sock will end and everything will speed back up and it'll be on, whatever it happens to be. So, this is the conclusion of the book. After 5 months of narrations, I feel quite sad, actually. Anywho, let's dig in, shall we? The conclusion of the sixth turn of the Shadowtech Goddess, Part 4, the second half of Chapter 8, Gelt. Alone in the center of a grotesque, time-frozen battle, they assess their situation. "At least everything feels level now," Kat said. "All right, we know these horrors won't come back to life until we touch the anatometer. That gives us time to prepare, at least." Kat made 2 fists. Silver tech bubbled, coating her hands. "We can do more than that." Kat formed STTs, her Belmont buzzers, their tiny bug-like bodies, falling from her hands in droves, scurrying about on the floor. They took wing, swirling around Kat. She gave them their orders they would follow to their deaths. "Avocados," she said, and a mass of STTs flew off, landing on the various green-clad members. "Tomatoes," she said. "Custards," and the STTs, like locusts, swarmed about the open area, landing on their assigned clans until they vanished into the stillness. "I've given these buzzers orders to explode on my command, good and hot. I hate to see them go, but when I say the word, this place is gonna go up like a bonfire on saluting day. If they're going up hard." Stenstrom was puzzled. "Saluting day? I don't think I've ever mentioned saluting day to you, Kat." "The cooks talk about it all the time. Say they love getting drunk on saluting day." "I see. Well, great thinking. So now, let's make our way up to the top." Kat had no problems bounding about from one Grundid to the next, rising up on precarious perches. Stenstrom, though, denied his TK, could not follow. Kat went all the way up to the top near the blue light. She looked about a moment, then bounded back down. "The coast is clear," she said. She extended her tail. "Come on, G, let me help you." Using her tail as a rail, he managed to climb up, seeing the leering faces, odd technology, and disembodied time-locked parts of the clans up close. As he neared, Kat would leap up a little higher to the next level, grabbing onto the Grundids and bits of metal, anything she could hold on to, and then assist Stenstrom with her tail, and so on, until they reached the top. They moved across the open span of wreckage. The place below was a frozen diorama of the grotesque and the bizarre. "The custards are pretty rotten," Kat said, trying to make light of the situation. "I'd rather the tomatoes. They sort of remind me of horses. I like horses." "They're all fairly horrific to me," he replied, grunting, pulling himself up on her tail. Once at the top, they saw their objective, a corridor heading forward awash in strong blue light. They entered the corridor. Stenstrom drew his ints, and Kat created a fresh swarm of STTs, this group orbiting around them in a slow, menacing circle. "It's like having the Belmont cavalry here with us," she said. "It's gonna suck when I forget how to make these little guys." "Countess Sigillis will teach you." "You know, I was all set to get rid of that page-too-long squash, but I don't know. I might be tempted to keep it around. Maybe put the bag in a safe or something where I can't get to it for casual stuff, but we'll have it in case of an emergency. What do you think?" "If you like." They made their way down the long corridor, which Stenstrom recognized as leading to the central engineering bay. At the end of the corridor was the thermoplant room, one of 3 that powered the large Triumph-class ships. It was 300 feet square and went up several decks. The thermoplant normally took up most of the space. However, it was not present. The floor in the room was mostly gone, fallen in, though a little remained around the walls, creating a precarious ledge. Kat's STTs moved with them, ready to deal with anything. The light coming up from the missing floor was bright. They removed their goggles. In the center of the room, spanning the section of fallen-in flooring, was a vast web. It was difficult for them to take it all in at once. The web was composed of interlinked, disembodied arms, all wearing etched blue armor, hands clasped with hands, blinking lights caught in frozen time. Smeared on the web at various points were clusters of heads, staring goggle-eyed at nothing. A flock of disembodied hands swarmed about, blue tail fires trailing them. All around the web, supported by disembodied arms bolted to the walls, were row after row of heads, all staring wide-eyed to the center. Here, in the former thermoplant room, was the Hall of Many Faces. And there was the demon, clinging to the web in a great metal construct that looked generally like a giant spider. From their perspective, the spider was upside down, clinging to the underside of the web. From where they were standing at the edge of the room, they couldn't see the top of it, only its undersides. Peering out, they saw under the web a great emptiness awash in bright, fruity light, an abyss stretching out into the vastness of chaos, colored in streaks of sanity lost, going nowhere for eternity. The spider construct was huge, possibly 30 feet tall, with a leg span of 100. It had only 4 jointed legs, and a plump machined abdomen composed of acid-etched ridges and dapples of blue light. At the other end, its head was a great glass sphere 15 feet across. The sphere was flawless except that it sported a dark ring of circuitry spanning its central axis. Inside the sphere was a flowing bluish liquid, cloudy in its viscosity, jostling like a science experiment in a beaker. A dark form floated in the fluid like an infernal, giant-sized embryo. Surrounding the spider, both above and below the web, was a swarm of armored hands and arms, flying about like angry blue hornets, all frozen in a moment by Crow's time sock. As they had Kat's STTs protecting them, Bellathauser also had the airborne Grundids protecting her. Stenstrom took in this horror with trained objectivity. He wasn't here to be horrified. He was here to kill the beast, to perform his revenge and reclaim the anatometer. He could be terrified later in his nightmares. "Where's the anatometer?" he asked, barely hearing his own voice. Kat, standing next to him, was surprisingly stoic. She sent her STTs forward in a cloud, moving all around the infernal thing hanging beneath the web. "I don't know. Maybe it's someplace we can't see from here." On all fours, Kat left the safety of the corridor and waded onto the web of flesh and metal, balancing on the narrow rungs, completely unafraid of the terrifying eternal drop into perdition beneath her, her tail steadying her like a rudder. "Come on, G," she said, offering her tail, stretching it out, wrapping it around his waist. He took hold of it, careful of the footing. Kat went out far, never putting a foot wrong until they reached the center of the web. She attached a Silvertech strand to the web and spun it out, allowing both she and Stenstrom to drop down below the web. Stenstrom didn't look at the churning yellowy abyss beneath him. He concentrated on the spider. From their new perspective beneath the web, they inspected it from front to back. They saw a fleshy umbilical cord attached to the spider at a point just behind its head. The cord trailed off a distance to a mountain of flesh and blood that seemed to be pulsating, though they saw no real movement in it. Stenstrom stared at the thing. That fleshy cord, was that the tap Bellathauser was using to drain their universe of energy? Could that be the case? He noticed that at the point where the cord connected to the spider's head, a dim glow of green light radiated in a circle. "There, Kat, I think that's the anatometer. Right there, mounted to the spider's head and connected to the very life-blood of our universe." "Let me move us in a little closer." There it was. As they got closer, the green glow got brighter, such that Stenstrom could see its circular structure. In Clovis, it had appeared as an uninteresting round rock, so vapid that it failed to capture Lady Gwendolyn's attention. Not so here. Though covered by the cord of flesh, it shone like a green star, vivid and terrible, pulsing, a great engine taking the energy from their suffering universe, processing it through this insane machination, and pumping out turbid, pre-processed reality, expelling it from a symmetrical line of exhaust ports jutting out of the dorsal section of the spider's abdomen. The top of the spider's head all around the anatometer was protected with an interwoven carpet of bare, interlocked arms, sentinels just waiting to rend apart anyone trying to get at the device. From their up-close position, they could also see what was floating in the glass sphere at the head of the spider was a naked woman, cupped up in the fetal position, awash with blue fluid. Bellathauser herself on the left side, the sundered body of Lady Gwendolyn on the right. The demon wears the flesh of Gwendolyn of Prentice. Stenstrom took in the horrific sight without flinching. When they had their fill taking it in, Kat pulled them back up to the web and then back to the safety at the edge of the corridor where they could stand. "Well, that's a hell of a thing, isn't it, G? That's Lady Gwendolyn in there, isn't it?" He nodded. "You okay?" "I'm fine." He wasn't fine. He concentrated at the task at hand, and the moment I touch the anatometer, the time sock ends and we engage in battle. Kat rubbed her chin. Okay, let's think about this. The floor is missing, and I don't like the look of that big empty space out there one bit. I wouldn't want to fall down in there, would you? Why don't I build a floor underneath it, a nice sturdy Silvertech floor? That way we could stand out there in safety and collectively beat the demon to death with nothing to worry about. Sounds fine to me. She hit herself up with fresh squash and went to work, slinging Silvertech around, creating in short order a silver interwoven floor beneath the web. The bright light from the abyss went out as the floor was completed, requiring them to put their goggles back on to see. Soon, Stenstrom was standing directly beneath the spider, the floor Kat had just made firm and solid beneath him. He inspected the situation. "I think I see some holes in this cord where I can place my hands and get at the anatometer. We're going to have to cut this cord away to dislodge it." Kat was nearby, busy creating dozens and dozens of STTs. She sent them all over the spider, crawling into its inner workings as only they could. "Maybe I can take this thing over with my buzzers like I did with Paige on Xandar." "Possibly, but I doubt it." "It's worth a try. In any event, I'm rigging this bitch to blow. Buzzers galore. If I can't take it over, I'll blow it to bits. There won't be anything left of it when I'm done. Bellathauser isn't going to know what the hell happened. I'm hitting all our goons up too, buzzer style. I might have to rest up a bit as I'm getting a little low." Kat seated herself next to Stenstrom. She looked up into the glass sphere. She saw the black mass of Bellathauser floating in the blue liquid. Looks sort of peaceful, like she's asleep in there or something, I suppose. After a short rest, Kat was ready. Stenstrom helped her up. Remember, we can't affect any damage to this machine while it's time-socked. Crow told us so. We have to first sync time. Once we get this going, we hold nothing back. This demon must be utterly destroyed. Unfortunately, civility and mercy do not apply here. Kat thought a little bit more. Okay then, now that I'm powered up a bit, let's get more backup on our side. She formed 3 great blobs of Silvertech and cast them to the floor. The blobs twisted and reformed into the life-size likenesses of 3 silver females. One bore a pair of wings, the second carried a great axe, and the final one had on a belt carrying a number of dinner plate-sized hollow rings. It's Bird and Walker, isn't it awesome? I thought it would be a nice touch having them here fighting with us, she said. The final female with rings stepped forward and curtsied to Stenstrom in a ladylike fashion. Is this a likeness of your final sister, Wheel? It is. She needs to be here too. So here's what we'll do. You get the anatometer, which will end the time sock. Crow said we'd have a few moments as time syncs back up. While that's going on, me and my sisters here will handle all the gruntids flying around. You get away from the spider as quickly as you can. Then I'll either take it over cold, or I'll buzzer bomb it into bits. We'll just pick the anatometer out of the wreckage once it's all done and get the hell out of here. Sound good? Not particularly, but I can't think of a better plan at the moment. Let's proceed. With Kat and her 3 Silvertech automatons at the ready, Stenstrom approached the cord of flesh, placing his hands on it. It felt rigid, like a smooth stone against his palms. He could see the green glow of the anatometer within. Several holes dotted the cord. He stuck his hands in, searching for the stony surface of the anatometer. You got it, G? Kat asked. Nearly. He shoved his hands in farther, going up to his elbows. Be ready! The tips of his fingers brushed against the anatometer. A surge of heat and pain ran up his arm. Whee! The world around him seemed to compress. Noise, cries, wailings, all assaulted his ears at once. The spider shuddered in surprise, the cord throbbing, its abdomen pulsing back and forth, belching out chaos. The interlocked arms around the anatometer came to life, waving about, their hands clenching and unclenching, seeking flesh to tear apart. Banging. The naked form in the glass sphere was banging on the sides with her hand. Bellathauser, wearing Gwendolyn's right side, was enraged. He drew his ents from its sash and aimed, ready to shoot the demon dead. From below, something rocked the silver floor he was standing on, knocking him off his feet. As he tried to right himself, he became aware of a foulness filling the air, destroying his lungs, every breath like swallowing a ball of uncoiling barbed wire. The walls of the chambers, the heads were belching a foul exhalation of noxious fumes, straight from the depths of hell, the air becoming more impossible to breathe by the second. He couldn't see what was happening to Kat, he could only imagine. This attack against Bellathauser and her grunted horde was mere seconds old, and it was quickly turning to a shambles. The interlocked arms on the spider's head pulled themselves free, dropping down on him like oversized maggots. Gasping for breath, he turned his nth and pumped shots into them, seeing the arms go limp. He had to locate Kat and get her out of here as quickly as possible. Another tremor rocked the floor. As he watched, a great sinuous arm clad in etched blue armor came slicing up through the Silvertech floor like a butcher's knife slicing through a burlap bag. With great effort, the arm sawed through the floor, emitting bright yellow light from the abyss below. A second arm appeared, ripping away chunks of the floor. A towering robotic suit of armor, possibly 20 feet tall, pulled itself through the hole in the floor. It moved with articulated grace like an octopus, its arms and legs rolling with tentacle-like fluidity. Atop its broad shoulders, where its head should be, was a vast ovoid hole. Bellathauser pointed at Stenstrom. The great robot snapped out its fist and picked him up like a doll. Before he knew what was happening, it whisked him through the hole it had made and into the vast, dreaded emptiness of the abyss below. Rockets at its back smoked as it maneuvered through space. It seemed to consider for a moment what to do with him, fling him into the nothingness or pull him apart like a fly. Panels opened, saws came out whirling, or saw him into quarters. That was an option as well. He aimed his nth and fired. The glowing imp shot, tinged purple by Crow's striker, hit the robot in the chest. It instantly seized up. Lights went out. Smoke poured from vents. Its smooth dance through the openness, now an out-of-control, lifeless tumble. Stenstrom worked himself from its grasp, the two of them falling side by side into eternity. A glint of silver from above. Before he knew it, he was in the arms of Kat's Silvertech reconstruction of her sister Bird, silver wings flapping, her hair alive with movement. She placed some sort of breathing mask against his mouth and nose, providing him with clean air. That was something. Kat was sure to still be alive up there. Effortlessly, Bird reversed course and flew him back up towards the opening. A gaggle of blue-armored body parts headed down towards them fast, like a school of piranha fish on the attack. It was a host of Grundids spoiling for their blood. He drew his second nth as Bird flew into the crowd. Arms, legs, and heads slammed into them, some moving with sinister life, others charred and burning like a match head, beginning their long, eternal fall. Stenstrom unleashed a torrent of inch shot, shooting at anything that got near to him, hitting many. Grundids fell away in vast numbers like an immortal rain as Bird worked her way upwards. She shuddered and screamed. Many clawed hands had latched onto her, ripping away pieces of her silver flesh, digging into her throat. He tried to shoot them with his pistols, but couldn't get a clear shot. If he accidentally hit Bird, she would be destroyed, and he would resume his fall into the abyss. Shot after shot, Grundids falling away, more attacking in vicious waves, Birds screaming as they took their toll on her. Though she was just a Silvertech creation, Kat had made her, poured her love into her. It was like the real Bird was dying all over again. A swarm of Grundids attacked, seeking their flesh, more than he could manage with his ents. As he watched, Grundids were sliced in twain, sometimes into quarters. One after the next was picked off on the wing. Others exploded in a grisly cloud. From above, scores of expertly thrown Silvertech discs wrought destruction and misery on the Grundids, taking them down with precision. With the rain of discs, with Kat's exploding STTs, the Grundid horde was thinned out enough for him to manage with his ints as Bird worked to return him to the platform. Nearly there, explosions, fire, body parts falling away as Kat's STTs did their deadly work. Bird staggered through the hole in the floor and released Stenstrom. She was hopelessly snared by the grasping hands, pulling on her head, digging into her throat, her silver hair, her shoulders, tearing away chunks of silvery material, her wings flapping hopelessly. Stenstrom tried to help her to pry the Grundids from her body, but he was under attack too. So many living parts of bodies swarming about, he couldn't shoot them fast enough. Wheel stood a short distance away, her Silvertech disc thrown precariously close to his head and neck, zipped past, dispatching the Grundids with deadly speed. But for Bird, there was no helping her. The Grundids were dug in, ripping away silver flesh. Clawed fingers came around, putting her eyes out. Spinning around in torment, Bird and the Grundids fastened to her fell through the hole and were gone. Enraged, he increased his rate of fire. He wanted revenge for Bird. More Grundids met their end. Wheel leapt to his side, casting a continuous torrent of discs as he blasted away with his dual pistols. She was fighting hard, courageously, with skill and grace, unlike the evil, selfish, black hat-tainted Wheel that Kat had described to him. "Gee!" came Kat's voice. Wheel took his arm and led him away from the hole towards the corridor. Kat was there, wearing a similar gas mask to the one he wore. Nearby was the Silvertech construct of Walker, swinging her great axe, cleaving Grundids from knuckle to bone. The walls of the chamber were wreathed in flames. Many of the heads that had been spewing noxious gases were either missing, were on fire, or were cloven in two. The spider with the anatometer in Bellathauser was caught in a strong Silvertech net, being hauled in by Kat, away from the hole in the floor. It struggled and thrashed about. "Gee, get over here!" she cried. He fought his way to her side. Wheel took up a defensive position, sending out Silvertech discs in a blur. This clearly was the Wheel Kat wished she had been, not the selfish creature she actually was. She's been trying to escape, but I got her. I was kind of able to take the construct over, but it didn't fully work. Now that you're back and she's far enough away from the hole that we won't lose the anatometer, I'm gonna blow it. From the hole, a second headless robot appeared, knifing its way into the chamber. It saw the snared Bellathauser and went to her aid, trying to cut the Silvertech net and free her. Fiery explosions like a string of fireworks went off along the spider's body, blowing off legs and large bits of metal. Kat's Belmont buzzers had done their work with horrendous results. The robot was thrown back, its metal body smashed and on fire. In a cascade of flames, the spider went down. The glass sphere containing Bellathauser detached and rolled away from the inferno like a marble. The burning robot still functioned. It rose and went back into action, moving with amazing speed. It seized the glass sphere and placed it on the open spot between its shoulders. Seating it with a twist, the sphere was now acting as its head. The giant with its new glass bubble turned to Stenstrom and Kat and quickly acted. Before either one of them could move, it lifted its arm and sprayed them with a fast-acting mist. In an instant, they were stuck in place like flies on sticky paper. Panels in the armor opened. Weapons appeared. Rapid energy pulses shot out. Walker dove in front of them, absorbing the shots. She buried her great axe in the robot's midsection, creating a gout of sparks and smoke. Undaunted, Bellathauser's robot pressed the attack, using its long arms like deadly swords, slicing Walker in two. Walker attacked one last time, making a small chip in the glass sphere with her axe. She then dropped it and went dead. Bellathauser cast Walker aside, surveyed the burning chamber, and went for Kat with an armful of spinning blades. She spoke in a demented voice. "I killed your woman once. I shall do it again." Wheel attacked, peppering the robot with a hail of discs. Kat managed to work herself free and leapt aside, while Stenstrom remained stuck. She righted herself and took aim, slashing with micropoint Silvertech. The robot's right arm fell off and smoked. Shocked, the giant robot came at Kat, missing an arm. Slash! Wheel sliced its other arm off. Kat took out both of Bellathauser's legs with a single swipe. The robot fell, face first, sparking and wrecked. Kat picked up Walker's axe, ready to cleave the spear in two. Tink! The spear resisted and leapt away from the force of the blow. Several flying arms came in and engaged themselves to the belt of machinery at the spear's center. Soon, Bellathauser's sphere, overlarge, like an egg resting on a framework of toothpicks, had a working set of arms and legs. Zzz! Zzz! Wheel destroyed the arms and legs, but in a flash, they were discarded and replaced with other arms and legs. Bellathauser rebuilding herself as fast as Wheel and Kat could put them off. It dug the anatometer out of the smoking ruins of the spider. With it tucked under her arm, Bellathauser turned to run, to escape out the hole of the floor and be gone. Zzz! Wheel sheared off one leg. Zzz! And a second. The sphere toppled. Kat was on it, swinging with Walker's axe. She hit the sphere, making a small crack, toppling the top-heavy assemblage over. Bellathauser raised her arm and fired a flashing red pulse. Kat leapt away, the beam burning the wall behind her. Bellathauser fired again. Kat leapt aside again. It was a standoff. Kat's speed against Bellathauser's hideous technology, a terrible game of chicken. Flying arms came in, seeking Kat's throat. Wheel downed several with perfect casts from her discs. Bellathauser had enough of Wheel and her deadly discs. She directed her minions to concentrate on Wheel, to take her down once and for all. A final surge of flying arms attacked Wheel, many going down in pieces along the way, but a few got in, latching onto her silvery flesh as they had with Bird. More attacked and found their mark. Wheel went down and was pulled apart in a horrific display, the Grundids trampling in her remains. With Wheel gone, they turned to Kat. Kat hacked them out of the air with her axe. Kat was tiring. A slash from Bellathauser's knives found their mark, and Kat fell to the floor. The demon seized her by the throat and held her fast. "Wendell Knight," she screeched in triumph. Bellathauser raised her knives to kill Kat. Thump! Bellathauser looked down. A marzible dagger had hit her in the arm, disabling her knife. Stenstrom, still stuck, had managed to free his right arm. He waved up another marzible dagger. Thump! It lodged in the elbow joint. The robot could no longer move, and there were a few Grundids left to replace the disabled ones. An arm came in to assist Bellathauser. Stenstrom skewered it out of the air with his daggers. Kat rallied, sensing victory. She raised her axe and brought it down, shattering the sphere, releasing stinking blue fluid within and the naked form of Bellathauser. The demon struck, leaping like a demonic frog, claws reaching for Kat's throat. A purple-tinged green globe hit Bellathauser in the back. Hit by an inch shot, she released Kat and fell to the floor, glistening from the fluid that had surrounded her. Kat went to Stenstrom's side and helped free him. The place around them was crawling with the half-dead and raging with fire. They picked up the anatometer. It was back to its rather humble appearance, the green glow gone. With it in hand, he went to Bellathauser's lifeless body. He placed her hand firmly on its smooth face and turned the knob. She reacted, eyes opening with fright and surprise, kicking out with Lady Gwendolyn's leg, and then was still. With the knob turned, the anatometer vanished, like it had never been there. "Is that it?" Kat asked. "Is it over?" "I have no idea. I hope so." There came a rumbling and compacting as Bellathauser's horror realm began to close in on itself. "Let's get out of here," he said. They ran out of the Hall of Many Faces to the open gallery beyond. An arm, covered in red armor, began clawing its way upwards to attack. Enstrom fired his ince, and the arm fell away, insensate. A custard floated upward. Several shots brought it down. "I'm gonna burn this place, G. I'm gonna burn it straight to hell where it belongs. Get 'em, buzzers!" Kat cried as the open hall erupted in fire, her previously placed STTs doing their deadly work. A custard trucked around hopelessly blazing, as did 2 tomatoes. Their armor spewed out fire-retardant material, but Kat's Silvertech flames would not go out. Sprouting Silvertech wings, she guided them both to the ground. The forward part of the ship near the Hall of Many Faces was now an inferno. Kat's STTs had done their work. The walls lurched and compressed inward, everything Bellathauser had made coming apart. Grundids of all clans capered about, burning. An avocado jumped into their way. Stenstrom hammered it with inch shot and it slumped over. A few STTs were dropped onto its body and the remains caught alight, the flames climbing high into the gallery. They passed out of the gallery area and Kat threw up a Silvertech wall, sealing the Grundid clans in. Many fists beat on the wall from the other side. Many armored feet kicked. They were being consumed by the irresistible flames, being turned into Reventors, as Crow had called them. Then, silence, as everything crumpled up and collapsed. They worked their way upward to the aft of the ship, struggling with the angle, Kat having to mostly carry Stenstrom. They found the hole Kat had made previously and bound it up the stairs to the surface of rainy Gelt. She sealed it with a Silvertech cap, as Sigillus of Blanchford had once done, leveled the ground and filled in the hole, forever this time. They stood there, trying to cope with the horror of what they had been through. Both fell into the mud, too fatigued to stand. Eventually, Kat spoke. "Thanks, Walker. Thanks, Bird. And thank you, Wheel. Most of all, thank you, Page DeLong of Moan. Couldn't have done it without you. Can we go home now, G?" And that is the conclusion of Part 4, Chapter 8, Gelt. We are not done. We still have Part 4, Chapter 9, Lunch by the Sea. It's only a few pages, and then we are done. In the weeks after Gelt, the universe never ended. Life continued as it was. Whatever damage Bellathauser had done was healed. It took some time getting back home, taking a slow, primitive transport off of Gelt that meandered its stumbling away across the cosmos, visiting every backwater outpost and crap stand it could find. The long trip sitting in the dingy, can-like interior of the transport helped wash away much of the terror of what they had seen. It helped get the fiery images of disembodied creatures and dying Silvertech friends out of their heads. During the voyage, Kat practiced making STTs, her Belmont buzzers, without using the squash. She struggled, eventually able to make a cockroach-like shape in silver, but it was too big, had no life. It couldn't move and fly and do all the incredible things Paige Dulong's STTs could. She cradled its unmoving form in her arms like a dead infant. "Buzz or no buzz," she said, trying to make light of it. It was frustrating knowing what was possible with Silvertech and not being able to create it by herself. STTs would be the first thing she would ask Countess Sigillis to teach her. They befriended a commoner family traveling to Hoban. Kat was good with their children, smiling as she played with them, coaxing laughter out of them. He was so proud of Kat. Eventually they arrived at Hoban. They bade their new friends goodbye, and from there they took a better transport home to Cana in just a few days. After a time of rest, Stenstrom took Kat to their favorite cafe in Tyrol Village by the sea. So close to the jetty they could occasionally feel spray from the surf tickle their faces. "You know, after all the places we've been, after all we've seen, this little cafe is my favorite. Here with you by the living sea," Kat said. "I agree. Getting all sorts of invitations from your sisters for all sorts of things. I don't know what to do with them all. The cooks told me to just burn everything. Just look them over, select the functions you wish to attend, and politely decline the rest. Please don't ignore any of them, and I wouldn't advise burning the notes at this time." Kat stirred her piping hot soup. "I was hoping next week we could go to St. Edmunds, check in on Aram, see how he's doing." "I think that sounds fine. I would wager he and a reformed Lady Alesta are well on their way to falling in love." "I hope so. What about Ottoman John and Melazar? You think there's any way to get word to them?" "Not officially. Vane is an enemy city with no formal lines of communication with the League. I still have a few friends at the fleet. We can probably back-channel a communication out to them one way or the other." "Great!" Kat looked around. "And what about Kara Hill and Paige? I really miss her. I'd like to return to Xandar and see how she's doing." "I miss her too. Let's give Xandar a little time to bloom, then we'll return." Kat aimlessly stirred her soup. "Hey, G, there's something I've been wanting to ask you." "What is it?" "Paige Dulong of Moan." "What about her?" She pushed her soup bowl aside. "I think she's still alive. I know Aethys told us she was dead, but I don't think so. At one point, I thought I was seeing what she was seeing. I thought I saw the three mountains in the Street of Knowledge. It's confusing having someone else's thoughts in your head. I don't know if she's living in Vane with a bot squash or if she's one of those poor people out in those Verdi Hovey parks. I think we owe it to her to at least try to investigate, see if she needs help." "All right, when we make contact with Ottoman John, we'll see what we can do." They continued their meal, savoring their mutual closeness, laughing, discussing their plans for the manor. The subject of children came up. They agreed to wait a year, to do a little traveling, see the League, visit Xandar, and then have their first child. "If we choose to have a girl, let's name her Paige, in honor of Paige and of Paige Dulong," Kat said. "I was going to suggest the same thing." Kat laughed. As they talked, a soft voice filtered in over their shoulders. "Belle?" Standing several tables down were a pair of familiar figures. It was Aram in his blue Calvert suit and Lady Alesta, long black hair pinned up, wearing her resplendent green Pilgrim of Marian robe. No tattoos, no elongated eyelash or demon tongue, just the woman in her natural beauty. It was the two of them from another universe who had guided both Stenstrom and Kat. They stood there, all smiles, beaming as they looked at Kat like proud parents. "Sorry we were delayed. We wouldn't have missed helping you for anything," Aram said. Stenstrom stood and shook Aram's hand. He was so different from the version of himself that inhabited this universe. "Lady Alesta, well met," he said, bowing. "Hi, Belle," she said, rising up and kissing him on the cheek. They turned to Kat. "We were hoping you would invite us to sit and join you for lunch," Alesta said. A tear fell from her eye. "We've been so eager." Kat dropped her spoon and slowly stood. In breathless joy, she stepped towards them, her hands clasped together at her midriff. She said nothing. A few hushed sobs came from her open mouth as she approached. Her angels. She stared at them. They stared at her, nobody saying anything. Stenstrom, hat in hand, stepped back, allowing them to have their moment. Kat raised her hands, reaching out to touch them, to feel their their skin against hers. Her hands felt the warmth of their cheeks. She savored their touch. They were real. They were here before her. Not alternate versions, but the real people she had so longed for. Tears falling from her face, Kat fell into their embrace, touching her angels at long last. And with that, we conclude the 6th turn of the Shadowtech goddess Kat. And there is nothing more. We are at the end. I feel sad. I've been at this since May. It is now November, and the book Kat is done. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you're able to keep up with it and follow my narration. One of my favorite books. I got plenty more. I'm thinking of doing the same thing for the Bloodstein books, the House of Bloodstein. Book 1, entitled Perlamum. It also is at the long end of the series and doesn't get as much traction as I would like, but I think that's a really cool book. A few acknowledgements. If you've been watching the videos, you've seen some of the amazing artwork that I have here in the League of Elders series, and that didn't come from me. I can't draw or paint. Special thanks to Carol Phillips, the queen of the League of Elder books. She does all the covers and a lot of interiors. A lot of the artwork you've seen, she painted and sketched. Also thanks to German artist Fantasio for some of the amazing artwork that he has contributed. German artist Eve Ventru, thanks to her, an amazing talent. We also have Canadian artist Evelina Dulcica, and a few more here. Let's see, I think Rebecca Sins, an American, she contributed several pieces. Very talented people all came together to help create and give breadth to this world I've created over 12 books now. Really hope you enjoyed the book, Kat. It's pretty typical for my type of writing. Lots of imagination, lots of weird things. Whatever I feel needs to be in the book goes in the book. Makes for some wild and woolly scenes, but that's how I like it. I'm thinking of doing more with Stenstrom and Kat. I was thinking that the snakehead whores, who had an image of Kat's head, create a meat puppet out of her. They do that at the Insalaco bar where they hang out. They create these meat puppets of people whose heads they've drained, and they can, using these puppets, control these people no matter how far away they are. And I envision them making a meat puppet of Kat and trying to control her, and seeing what happens after that. Just a few thoughts, nothing written or concrete. I'm still completing other books in the Shadowtech Goddess series. I'm working on Melazar, which is a mess right now. That's got to work through it and then clean it up. Also, Tara de la Anderson, you mentioned her a few times. Paymaster Stenstrom's first officer, the little marine girl from Baz. I'm getting close to the end of that one. But until then, this is Ren Presents. I'm your host, Ren. I bid you adieu.